This is the story of my restless nights, and I am going to tell you every terrifying detail, so listen closely. It started when I began having a recurring nightmare that felt too real to be just a dream. Every night, as soon as I closed my eyes, I found myself in a world of shadows and whispers that picked up exactly where the last nightmare left off. At first, I thought it was just a bad dream, but soon I realized it was something far more sinister. In the dream, I wake up in a dark, endless hallway with peeling walls and a cold, damp floor. I remember the exact spot where I stopped each night, as if time itself froze there until I returned. There was always a faint light at the far end of the hall, a small, flickering bulb that offered no comfort but only deepened my anxiety. I would stand at that spot, unable to move forward or back, feeling trapped in a cycle of fear and foreboding. One night, as I moved towards that light, I noticed a door I hadn't seen before. It was heavy and worn, with scratches and marks that looked like desperate warnings left behind. I hesitated, my heart pounding in my chest, knowing that behind that door lay the next chapter of my nightmare. With trembling hands, I pushed it open and stepped through into a room that was eerily familiar. In this place, every corner revealed a memory I had long forgotten. Every whisper echoed with the voice of regret. It was as if the room was a mirror of my soul, exposing all my hidden fears. But it wasn't just memories that haunted me in that dream. I soon realized that there was a presence lurking in the shadows, a figure that moved silently, always watching me. I could never see its face clearly. It was always hidden in darkness, yet its eyes shone with a malevolence that chilled me to the core. Each time I encountered this figure, I felt a sense of impending doom. It was as though it was a part of me, a darker side that I had tried to bury, and now it had come to claim me. I tried to escape, turning around to find another way out of the nightmare. But every path led me back to that endless hallway. In one terrifying moment, I even dared to confront the figure. I shouted, "Who are you? What do you want from me?" The response was a low, echoing laugh that reverberated through the hall, filling every dark corner with its malevolent tone. The laughter grew louder until it drowned out every other sound, and in that moment, I knew that I was not the only prisoner in my own mind. Each night, as the nightmare picked up from where it had ended, I began to notice small changes that made my skin crawl. Little clues appeared, a faint scrawl on the wall that read, "You can't run from yourself." A broken mirror reflecting a distorted version of my face, even the sound of my own heartbeat echoing in an empty room. These fragments made me wonder if my dream was not just a mere illusion, but a warning of something far worse to come. I started keeping a journal, desperate to find a pattern or a way to break free from the cycle. The pages filled with sketches of the dark hallway and the mysterious door, with notes about the figure's sinister laughter and the chilling phrases that appeared like a curse. The more I wrote down, the more I began to see that my nightmare was slowly seeping into my waking life. Every day I could feel its grip tightening, as if the shadow from my dreams was trying to follow me into the light. One rainy evening, after another sleep-filled battle with that relentless nightmare, I woke up in a cold sweat. For a brief moment, I felt a sharp pain in my chest that mirrored the terror of my dreams. I knew that the nightmare was no longer confined to the dark corners of my sleep. It had become a part of me. The thought that my mind could trap me in a cycle of fear, forcing me to confront my deepest, darkest secrets night after night, left me feeling hollow and alone. That is the story of how each night my nightmare continued from where it left off, a torment that blurred the lines between sleep and waking and forced me to face the shadows within my own soul. Even now, as I try to live in the light, I cannot shake the feeling that the next night will bring the same darkness back to claim what is left of me. This is the story of the man who stole dreams, and I am going to tell you every strange and chilling part of it. It's not just a story. It's something that still gives me shivers when I think about it. So, listen closely and don't drift off, because that's when he comes. It all began in a quiet town called Greystone. Not too big, not too small. People lived simple lives, went to work, came home, and slept in peace. But something started changing one winter. It began with children waking up screaming in the night, saying their dreams were being taken. At first, no one believed them. You know how people are. They say it's just nightmares, just imagination. But soon, even the adults started waking up tired, confused, and afraid. They said they could feel something in their dreams, a man, watching them from the shadows, not speaking, just standing there, staring, as if waiting for something. And the strange thing? Every time they saw him in a dream, they would wake up feeling like a part of their mind had gone missing. People stopped sleeping properly. Some even refused to sleep at all. Coffee shops were full all night. Doctors couldn't explain it. But I knew something wasn't right. Then I met a man named Thomas Ray. He was quiet, always wore a long dark coat, and his eyes, there was something wrong with them, like he had seen too much. He came to town with no past, no family, no reason. Just appeared one day and got a small room above the bookstore. That's where I first saw him. He never smiled, never talked much. But one evening as I passed the bookstore, I saw him staring at me through the window. Not in a normal way. His eyes followed me, cold and empty. I felt a chill run down my spine like he was reaching into my thoughts. Later that night, I had the worst dream of my life. I was in a long hallway, full of doors. Behind each door, I could hear whispers, my voice, my memories, even my laughter. And at the end of the hallway, standing under a flickering light, was him, Thomas Ray. But his face was wrong. His mouth was too wide, and his eyes were completely black. He raised one finger and pointed at me. I couldn't move, couldn't speak. Then I woke up, heart racing, sweating, and I couldn't remember what the dream was about anymore. Just that it felt like something had been taken. I wasn't the only one. More people started seeing him in their dreams. They called him the Dream Man. They said he didn't just visit dreams. He stole them. Memories, ideas, hopes, fears, gone after one visit from him. People began to forget things, little by little. First their dreams, then small memories, and then entire parts of who they were. I decided to find out who Thomas Ray really was. I broke into his room one night. It was cold inside, even though the heater was on. The place was empty except for a chair, a desk, and a thick black book with no title. I opened it, and my breath caught. Inside were pages full of names of people in town. Next to each name there were notes. Not normal notes. They described dreams, specific dreams. Some were full of joy and love. Others were nightmares. And beside each dream, written in red ink, were the words, "Taken." Then I saw my own name. There it was. My dreams, my fears, my memories, listed and marked. I slammed the book shut, heart pounding. And that's when I heard it, a whisper behind me. "You shouldn't have opened that." I turned around and he was there. Thomas Ray. But his face was no longer normal. It stretched and shifted, like it was trying to hold back something dark inside. I ran. I didn't look back. After that night, he was gone. Just like that. Room empty. Book gone. No one had seen him leave. But the damage was done. Some people never got their dreams back. Some forgot their loved ones. Others forgot who they were. I left Greystone not long after. But the nightmares didn't stop. I still see the hallway. Still hear the whispers. And sometimes, when I wake up, I forget what I was dreaming about, or why I feel like I'm missing something important. Some say Thomas Ray was never real. just a ghost, a shadow that fed on the mind. Others say he still walks from town to town, stealing dreams to fill his book. Looking for people who open doors they shouldn't. So if you ever find yourself in a dream, walking down a hallway with doors, and you see a man waiting under a flickering light, don't go near him. Don't talk. Don't listen. Just turn and run, because once he points at you, it's already too late. And that, my friend, is the story of the man who stole dreams. Don't forget it. Unless he already took that part. This is the story of a dream that predicted my death, and I am going to tell you every eerie detail, so listen carefully. It all started on an ordinary night, when sleep crept in silently and took hold of my mind. I remember the dream as if it were a shadow cast by a dying light. I was walking down a long, dark corridor with peeling wallpaper and creaking floorboards. The air was thick, and every step echoed like a warning in that endless hall. At the far end, I saw a door, half open, with a chill seeping out into the room. I felt drawn to it, as if it held a secret meant only for me. I walked towards that door, heart pounding faster with every step. As I reached out and touched the cold, rusty handle, a voice whispered my name from inside the room, soft and echoing. The voice sent a shiver down my spine, but I couldn't bring myself to turn back. I pushed the door open, and the sight that met me stopped me in my tracks. Inside was a dimly lit room filled with old photographs, broken mirrors, and scattered belongings that looked like they were left behind long ago. In the center of the room lay a small bed with a tattered blanket, and resting on the pillow was a handwritten note that simply said, "Soon." A deep sense of dread washed over me as I realized that I was not just witnessing a random scene, but something that felt like a message meant for my very soul. I felt a sudden, overwhelming urge to run, but my feet wouldn't carry me. Then, the vision began to shift. The room melted away into darkness, and I found myself standing in a field under a gloomy sky where thick black clouds churned above. I could barely see, but in the distance a shadowy figure moved slowly towards me. The figure was dressed in old-fashioned clothes, and his face was hidden beneath a wide-brimmed hat. Every step he took was heavy with an almost ceremonial finality. Tried to speak, to ask him what he wanted, but no sound left my throat. As he came closer, I saw his eyes. They were cold, lifeless, and filled with a sorrow that felt like a glimpse of the end. In that moment, I understood. This dream was not just any dream. It was a glimpse into my fate, a warning that something terrible was to come. The shadow spoke without words, his presence a silent promise of doom. And then, just like that, I woke up. Lying in my bed, drenched in sweat and shaking uncontrollably, I couldn't shake the feeling that the dream was real. It haunted me throughout the day. I tried to go about my routine, but every sound, every flicker of light made me jump. I could not help but wonder if fate was sealing my destiny. Friends noticed my unease, but I brushed it off with the excuse of a bad night's sleep. Yet, deep down, I knew that the dream was a prelude, a chilling reminder that life was about to change in a way I couldn't control. As days passed, eerie occurrences began to pile up. I received strange phone calls at odd hours, with only heavy breathing on the other end. I kept seeing the same dark figure in reflections, in windows, in the darkness behind me. It was as if my very soul was being stalked by the specter from the dream. Every night I prayed that sleep would come lightly, that dreams would be kind. But instead, they brought more of that unexplainable terror. One evening, a knock came at my door. I opened it to find an envelope, old and weathered, with no return address. Inside was a single sheet of paper with a date and the words, "Your time is near." My heart sank as I realized that the handwritten note in my dream was not simply a message, it was a prophecy. Panic set in, and I spent that night in restless vigil, refusing to close my eyes. But sleep was a cruel trap, and eventually, exhaustion forced me into unconsciousness. In my final dream before everything changed, I found myself back in that dim corridor. This time I knew what was coming. The shadowy figure stood before me, silent as death itself, and in his hand was a mirror. He held it up to my face. I saw not just my features, but an image of myself lying lifeless, eyes wide open, as if frozen, in terror. The realization was unbearable. The dream was my last farewell. I woke up with a scream, my heart racing, knowing deep down that my destiny had been sealed long before. That is the story of the dream that predicted my death, a tale of silent warnings and ghostly encounters that left me with the bitter taste of regret and fear. Even as I speak these words, I know that nightmares never truly end. They cling to you, waiting for the moment when you can no longer run away from them. This is the story of a night unlike any other, and I am going to tell you every haunting detail, so listen closely. It began with a dream that felt so real I woke up convinced it was a warning. I had always had strange dreams, but nothing like that night. I fell asleep in a quiet state, unaware that soon I would meet someone unexpected, a version of myself. In the dream, I walked down an old, dusty street, the pavement lit only by the weak glow of street lamps that flickered in the kiao. Darkness. The air was heavy, and every step echoed with a sound that made my heart beat faster. I felt uneasy but pushed on, unable to turn away from the mystery that lay ahead. Soon, I reached a small park with crooked trees and a forgotten fountain. I could see my own reflection in the still water, but something was off. My eyes, usually so soft, appeared cold and harsh. I blinked and turned away, thinking it was just a trick of the dim light. As I moved deeper into the park, I began to see another figure following in the distance. The figure's shape grew larger and more familiar with every step I took. Then it happened. I saw the face clearly. It was me. But this reflection was not kind. It had a sneer on its lips and a look of contempt in its eyes. I stopped dead in my tracks as this dream self began to approach. It moved with an eerie grace, gliding rather than walking, until it was standing right in front of me. I felt a chill that sank deep into my bones as it stared at me. The dream version of me spoke, though its voice was not my own. It said, "I have come to show you the truth, and I despise you for the life you have led." Its words echoed in the silent air, and I felt my heart shatter into pieces. I tried to ask why, but the words died in my throat, and all I could do was stare back at this grim mirror of myself. The confrontation grew intense, and the park around us began to change. The crooked trees twisted into grotesque shapes, and the fountain water turned to a dark, oily substance that bubbled as if it were alive. I felt trapped in the nightmare, unable to escape the inevitable truth that this part of me held all the anger and regret I had tried to hide. My doppelganger's eyes burned with emotion as it continued. "Every day you push away your fears. Every time you ignore your mistakes, you grow weaker. I am the truth you refuse to see." Its words cut through the silence, each syllable leaving a mark on my soul. I wanted to run, to scream that it wasn't true, but I was frozen in place as if the very ground had claimed me. As the dream twisted on, my other self reached out a hand, not in kindness, but in an attempt to claim a part of me. I pulled back, feeling a force like icy smoke wrap around me, trying to pull me in. I mustered all the strength I had and shouted that I would change, that I would face the truth of my life. The reflection's sneer deepened, and in a voice that shook me to the core, it whispered, "Then you will suffer." The park began to crumble around us. The trees decayed before my eyes, and the once sparkling street lamps dimmed to nearly nothing. It was then that I woke up, drenched in cold sweat, and with my heart pounding so hard I was sure it would burst. I lay in my bed, the memory of that hateful version of myself clear as day. I spent the rest of the night tossing and turning, haunted by the lingering feeling of being judged by my own soul. Every shadow in the room seemed to carry a hint of that sneer. Every creak of the floor felt like a reminder of what I had seen. In the days that followed, I could not shake the impact of that dream. It forced me to look at my life with harsh honesty. I began to notice the little things I had always ignored, the moments of anger I held onto, the dreams I had abandoned out of fear of failure. I came to understand that my dream self was not an evil phantom, but a mirror reflecting the parts of me I was too scared to face. The hatred it had for me was a direct result of the anger I had built up inside, the guilt for every missed chance to be better. Though the dream terrified me, it also ignited a spark of change. It was as if my own hatred forced me to confront my faults and start the long journey towards redemption. That is the story of the dream where I met myself, and it hated me. Even now, I carry that lesson in my heart, knowing that sometimes the most fearsome demons are the ones that live inside us, waiting for us to acknowledge them.